know everyone wants to get on me for Caleb Williams having not thrown a touchdown pass yet, right? And I get it.
Yep.
We're going to have to address it. The struggle is really real for me right now. I feel like as a Bears fan, I've already painted into a corner, and I have to choose between outrage and preservation, self-preservation. But
Sure.
to me, the most eye-popping and eye-opening tweet I saw was a numbers tweet from a guy who does all this. It's called 33rd Team, and they just always are looking at numbers.
Yep.
Passing touchdowns through 2 weeks in the NFL season. In 2019, 105. 2020, 110. 2021, 110. 2022, 105. So for 4 straight years, 105 or 110, well over 100, right? And consistent, like about consistent,
Sure.
right? Last year, 86. This year, 66. Dan, and actually, that was pending before Monday Night Football. So if you add in the 3 from Monday Night Football, 69. Nice. Dan, I put it to you, and I have a thought on why I think it really is this. But I put it to you, what is your gut reaction to seeing that? Because that is jarring, right? That's a jarring difference. It's not like 110, 105, 110, 105, 90. It's 110, 110, 105, 105, 86, 69. I mean, steep decline.
Yeah. No, it is a weird thing to see when it's juxtaposed with just recent seasons, because you could say, well, there's been a gradual, push or something here and there, but no, it's very jarring and quick change. The best I could come up to think of what could be causing this, drastic drop in offensive production is like most things, it's probably a combination. I would think part of it could be potentially the preseason, like the lack of utilization, the fewer games for one, but then on top of that, not playing your starters tend to start, the season slow. That we've seen that kind of be a trend in recent years, and this goes to prove that. Also, so many rule changes have happened, so many impactful rule changes have happened in the last 5 years, that are causing refs to overcompensate in the, initial weeks of the NFL season to try and, make a stand and send a message. And then possibly lastly, and I don't know if anything backs this up, but we've had just a lot of turnover at the quarterback position, at the head coaching positions in recent years. New systems, new offensive coordinators for young quarterbacks. And I don't know if the stats will bear that out, because I'm sure 6 years ago there were still as many different head coaches and different quarterbacks, and they were putting up 106 touchdowns. And so I'm not sure, but I think it could be a marrying of those 3 things. That's at least my initial reaction. What about you?
Yeah, I think that's the smart approach to it, and I think that's probably 99% of it. I'm going to take a hard right, and I'm going to say, Dan, I like, from just an average fan standpoint of watching all these games, I think offensive football has gone too far. Like, it's gotten way too cute, way too inefficient, and way too gimmicky, and way too analytics driven. Look at offensive football right now. Every game you turn on, I watched Monday Night Football last night, watching Sunday Night Football with the Bears. Any of the primetime games, just take a standalone game, let alone, when you're trying to watch, 10 games at once on Sunday at noon. If you're watching Red Zone, it's nothing but bubble screen and odd, weird little dump off, pop bubble things out. None of it is traditional, what we're used to football. Even in 2019, when you had still Tom Brady in the league, and you had people who's like, no, we're going to line up in formations, and we're going to traditional formations, and we're going to have more traditional style offenses where just better players making better routes and throwing deep balls. No one throws the deep ball anymore, even except for Anthony Richardson. But even then, it's as we saw against Green Bay, horribly inefficient at times. To me, it just seems like offensive football's got way too cute, way too gimmicky, way too perimeter, outside, sideline based. Not enough lineup, deep cross over the middle, fake the handoff, get the linebackers to bite, pick up giant chunks, and moving the football efficiently. I think to me that as a part of it as well, that goes with all the other things you said. Offensive line play struggling.
Well, and we talked about it. Yeah, exactly. We talked about it last week. Offensive lines versus defensive lines. The gap is getting bigger and bigger.
And normally we used to, like back in 2019 and 2020, like the thought was when we started this podcast was, offense has the advantage at the start of the year because they've been practicing all offseason. No one has tape, all this newness, right? And now it feels like, oh no, offense is way behind defense. They need time to gel. Everything needs to come together. It's like, well, what really changed? And I think a lot of it is the offseason programs and the preseason is non-existent for starters. And I think you're seeing, and then that coupled with the fact that everyone is running the Sean McVay, Shanahan tree stuff, and then the other rest of the
not
NFL,
doing it well.
Yeah, and it's not doing it well. And then the rest of the NFL is running a bunch of just like, why are we throwing a wide receiver screen to Gerald Everett at the 40-yard line? Like, what are we doing?
Exactly.
And so I think that's and plus, think of all of the young quarterbacks. 5 years ago, 2019, if you look at the starting quarterbacks versus the starting quarterbacks for 2024, it's drastic how many more young guys we have in this league. And I definitely think that's a part of it as well. It's crazy. It's my, and I bring it up as my first line of defense for my guy Caleb Williams, because we'll get to it when we talk Bears. I promise you, I'm going to only address the Bears in here's the glass half empty version and here's the glass, half full version, to try to calm the waters, but also press the panic button for everyone as well.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
You're 2-0. You don't have to worry about anything. You're 2-0.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Steelers are 2-0, and feeling so good about that 2-0. Obviously, it's a good start, and I'll take it, but still some cautious optimism
Totally.
as it relates to the Steelers. But we'll get to all that and more here in our Week 2 recap. All right, starting off with a little bit of a different segment here as we're going to play around with this throughout the season. Best win, worst loss of Week 2. We're going to try and see if we can identify one of each of those for Mark and myself. So, Mark, let's start with best win, and I'll let you take the reins on that one.
A lot of great wins this week. For surprise,
a lot of candidates.
A lot of surprise wins. But I'm gonna trust what I think is a meaningful matchup for January football. And I think we saw one game that's gonna mean a ton come January in the NFC, and that is the Bucs have the tiebreaker now over the Detroit Lions. I was high in the Bucs. I picked the Bucs to win their division. I picked the Lions to win that division. The fact that the Bucs went into Detroit, kind of punched them in the mouth, and handled the Lions' physicality, revenge game from the playoff loss last year. And listen, a really tough start of the year for the Lions, right? You get the Rams and the Bucs, two teams you beat in the playoffs. You see them immediately again to start your season. I'm not panicking if I'm the Lions. It's not the worst loss for the Lions, right? It's a really good Bucs team. But for the Bucs, I just thought that was an extremely important win. Baker played great. They forced the Lions to do what the Lions don't want to do, which is have Jared Goff throw the ball 55 times, right? The Lions want Jared Goff to throw the ball about 32 times and run the ball about 30 times. They weren't able to do that. And so credit to the Buccaneers. Listen, I mean, we are just a year and a 2 games into Baker Mayfield is a buck. And I got to be honest, Dan, it is an extremely, extremely small sample size, but impressive sample size.
Yeah,
And
it's working. Something is working very well.
it's really working. Now, again, it feels a little bit like the Geno Smith talk. Like, how high is the ceiling? I don't know. But I
Yeah,
do
but
know that.
even Baker feels differently because you feel that the whole team's vibe is around him. I don't
Yes.
know if like Seattle's like
Yeah.
obviously Geno's a good teammate and like they like him there, but it just
Yeah.
feels more of a spark, right, with
Totally.
Baker.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And I mean, listen, we just saw Brock Purdy lead the Niners to a Super Bowl. Is the Bucks roster as good as the Niners? No, but is Baker better than Purdy? I think so. So maybe that equals
Yeah.
out, right? Maybe that equals out. And also, one thing I wanted to do this week with you is to do a segment called Contract Checkup. So this game has one of my contract checkups. So what I did was there are 7 quarterbacks who signed big deals this offseason. Baker Mayfield was one of them. 3 years, $100 million, 33.3333 per year. Through 2 games, 2-0, 73.5% completion percentage, 474 yards passing. So he's averaging what? 200 and almost 240 yards a game, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 1 rushing TD. That was a really nice rushing touchdown for him.
Yeah.
A+ on the contract, right? That's my gut. That's
No
my
doubt.
feeling.
No doubt. You'll take that all day in the NFL, especially today's NFL. We see the quarterbacks. I mean, who'd you rather have, Dak Prescott or Baker Mayfield? I feel like they're, 1A, 1B.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know, it's
100%.
they're
And if
very, very close.
and the number is you're paying Baker half per season, and overall the lifetime of the contract, you're paying him
Yeah.
almost 2.5. What 1?
Probably
I
like
don't do math.
35-40% of the
Yeah.
overall Dak contract. I mean, yeah, it's
Well, Dak's at 240 million over 4 years. Baker's at
okay.
100.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so it's right around
140 million
40%
less. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. It's wild stuff. I like that. I like that choice. For me, I'm going to also stay in the NFC. For me, it was the Minnesota Vikings defeating the
Good
San
choice, good
Francisco
choice.
49ers. So many first off, nobody was talking about the Minnesota Vikings really throughout the offseason. I mean, we covered pretty much every team throughout the offseason on the show, but we definitely spent way less time on the Vikings than a lot of other teams. National media, no talk of Minnesota.
No.
And here they are, 2-0. Sam Darnold looking very competent with the Kevin O'Connell system. We had, discussed this as being a possibility. Was Sam Darnold going to have somewhat of a career resurrection with Kevin O'Connell? We thought the pairing was good. We thought, he's got the great weapons, but he's done this with, a banged up Justin Jefferson in this game. He did this without Jordan Addison. He did this without tight end 1, TJ Hawkinson, so far through 2 weeks. A middling run game. I mean, Aaron Jones is good, but their offensive line, wasn't anything great to speak of. Their defense coming into the year, we're like, they're just going to be average at best. This is impressive, man. And to defeat
it's scary,
defending, NFC champions, it says a lot about where Minnesota's at and where they see themselves this year. Even if they don't, make a run, if they're competitive by week 17, 18 of the season and putting themselves in a position for a playoff spot in the competitive NFC North, we're going to look back to the early season games where they defeated a tough 49ers team. Granted, it was at home, but went on the road week 1, got a win there too. I just think overall, what we're seeing from Sam Darnold, this is enough to sustain a pretty solid team throughout the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great choice. It's truly one of the shocking results. I don't think it was shocking that the Vikings won, but I think it was shocking the way they won. I mean, Darnold late in the game making huge throws against that defense. And that was after he had already lost Justin Jefferson and there was no Jordan Addison in this game. He and Kevin O'Connell seem to be really simpatico and they're really on the same page. It's really early. It's a really small sample size, right? Remember what Kevin O'Connell did with Josh Dobbs for a game. We're like, oh my God, he's, and then it all fell apart. Yeah. Is it sustainable? I don't know. But I will say, if you're a Niners fan, are you sweating a little bit, right? no Purdy. I mean, no CMC. You just put Debo now injured.
Yep, and he's going to be missing a couple weeks at a minimum. So
Yeah. And
yeah,
and your
it's rough.
offensive line has just not gelled. Purdy's been sacked. I think he got sacked like 6 or 7 times in that game against the Vikings defensive
6
line
times. Yep.
that is not known, or at least on paper going into the season, was not something we had to worry about, right?
I don't know who Pat Jones is. He had 2 sacks.
Exactly right. I'll say this, Dan. My thought, there was a point in time during the third quarter of that game, as I'm watching it, I'm like, if I didn't know who Brock Purdy was and where he was drafted in his story, and I didn't know who Sam Darnold was in his story, you just took like a college scout, right, who maybe doesn't follow the NFL at all or doesn't care, right? And you said, hey, evaluate those two guys, Darnold versus Purdy. But dude, Darnold, that guy's a star. You should go pay him a ton of money. Purdy guy, you got to be questioning whether he's your guy or not. I mean, it was shocking on that field to be like Purdy, Darnold was the bigger, stronger athlete making the bit better throws, and Purdy looked shaken. And so huge win for Minnesota. I'm not panicking if I'm the Niners, but I think this is a wake-up call for them for sure that this start of the season, it could be really rough if they don't band together because of the injuries.
Yeah, 100%. It's early in the season, but there's obviously some warning signs here of fatigue and wear and tear and being old that, maybe it's caught up with them a little bit in San Francisco. But as we know, Kyle Shanahan is one to pull some tricks out of the hat and work his magic with Jawan Jennings and Jordan Mason here and a lot of other, lesser known players. So we'll see if they can turn it around. Worst loss of the week for me, Mark, is, and there were really 2 games that I was deciding between, but one was almost, just straight up expected at this point that I'm going to choose to not go with that one. I'm going to go with what the matchup that we discussed last week as being super important for teams to get a win. The Jacksonville Jaguars losing 18.
It's my loss of the week as well. So we're on the same page there.
Good stuff.
It makes sense, right? Like we set it up last week, as you mentioned. Trevor Lawrence, contract checkup. You ready for contract checkup time? Checkup time.
Let's do it.
Trevor Lawrence.
Just signed. The ink is still drying.
5 years, $275 million. He's the only one of the big contracts that got 5 years. Remember, I was shocked that Jordan Love didn't get 5 years, but he took 5 years, $55 million a year. He is now 0-2, completing 51% of his balls, 382 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Dan, it's ugly. It doesn't look right. And I think the Jags have now lost like 7 straight games, or like a lot more. They lost 5 to end the season last year, and then 2 to start this year. It is ugly, ugly, ugly. And watching that game, listen, the Browns, Myles Garrett's a problem, but Trevor Lawrence is just missing throws. They don't do anything well on offense. Like, what's their identity? What do they lean on? I don't know what to say. They are in a must win. The problem is their next 2 games are the Bills and the Texans. So
yeah. So good luck with that, right?
I mean, this Jags team could be 0-4, and that is to me would be pretty shocking. I expected them to come out and have a really good year and bounce back year, and it has been anything but that so far.
It's been extremely disappointing there in Jacksonville. And here's something to kind of back it up too, because one of the biggest things, we talked about it last year, and I think it was last year where I was saying they were getting so much bad red zone luck that it almost had to revert back to the mean at some point this year. Now I feel like this is a legitimate pattern with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They cannot convert touchdowns in the red zone. They right now are 18th in the league. So, all right, they're middle of the road. It's not, fire burning at 42%. this year, but it's just everything is so difficult
Yeah,
with
it's a great
Jacksonville
word.
that last year they were 21st in the league. Like that cannot cut it in terms
Not
of
with those
converting red zone
weapons
trips to
and that
touchdowns with
quarterback.
that
Yeah,
amount of weapons. And
yeah.
with a Super Bowl winning head coach in Doug Peterson, with a talent at quarterback like Trevor Lawrence. It's the most perplexing thing I can think in in the league over the last couple of years is their lack of success
Yeah.
because the talent is still there. It's I
And
will die on that hill with Trevor Lawrence having all of the tools to be able to make it work. I don't get why it's not.
no, and he's going to get the benefit of the doubt to get another head coach, right? Like if this year continues to spiral because of the giant contract. But in a year from now, with a new head coach, if that's where it goes and it's still not getting better, that's when we legitimately, there's no other question just to be like, maybe he just doesn't have it. He just doesn't have it. It's bad. It's still
Crazy.
early, plenty of time to turn around, but you're right. It was the worst loss. The Browns were as low as it could get. The game was in Jacksonville, I believe, and they couldn't find a way to win. They couldn't score. Deshaun Watson only rushed a touchdown. It's not like he like turned it around and lit it up and then, and they just couldn't hang with him. It was ugly. It was bad. And it is definitely the worst loss, mainly to me, compounded by the fact that you have the Bills and the Texans next. Two of the top three teams in the AFC. You got to go turn your season around and try to they've got to win at least one of those. They've got to be 1-3 by week 4. So good luck to them. And, you hope it's the Texans because it's a divisional game, right? But not a great spot for the Jags.
Definitely not a great spot. Hopefully, brighter days ahead for Jacksonville as well as for that fan base who has been clamoring for a team that has a semblance of, offensive and defensive cohesion for an entire season to get them over that hump that they've been waiting for so long. All right. Well, that will do it for our best win, worst loss of week 2. We'll be back right after this short break with a word from our sponsor. On to the rest of week 2.
Serving the Quad Cities area since 1973. And with over 50 years of excellence on their track record, you'll see why it's so easy to trust their experts when it comes to all of your home improvement projects. This family-owned business has you covered on all your needs. Protect your home or building from the elements today and get great roof repair services. Need new windows? No problem. Durham Remodeling can upgrade your windows and doors. Whether you want to upgrade the little details in your home or office, or want to tear a room down and start fresh, the expert contractors at Durham Remodeling have your back. Even the smallest changes can completely transform your space. Ready to start entertaining your friends for backyard barbecues? Durham Remodeling will help you plan, design, and build your deck and patio for the perfect outdoor space. Durham Remodeling's work is 100% guaranteed, so you can rest assured that you're getting the best service around. Call 309-786-6715 today for your free estimate for all your roofing, siding, flooring, windows, and painting needs. That's Durham Remodeling, 309-786-6715.
All right, so we continue on now into the rest of our week 2 recap. We'll backtrack all the way to Thursday Night Football if we can remember back that far. The Buffalo Bills at the Miami Dolphins, of course, a memorable game for many reasons. Most notably, of course, is Tua Tagovailoa leaving this game early with a confirmed concussion, his 3rd in 3 years. And obviously, these all occurring on prime time, which has magnified his case in the media and in the eyes of NFL fans all throughout the world. This has caused, obviously, a lot of discussion about Tua's future in the NFL and whether or not he should consider. Obviously, these are his choices and his choices to make with his medical personnel and family. It has just been announced that they have officially placed Tua on injured reserve as of today. So he is going to miss a month at least, take the time he needs to make this decision, which means the Dolphins are dealt a double blow here, losing a tough game to their division opponent, of course, going to 1-1 and losing by 3 touchdowns, but also being without their quarterback and seemingly having Skylar Thompson leading the way for the next month.
Yeah, that's not great. Contract checkup time. Tua,
Let's do it. Yeah.
4 years, 212 million, 53.1 per year. He left late in that game, and in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it was
and
a
I will
bad
say
performance.
he was not playing well. He's 1-1, 64% completion, so certainly better than Trevor. 483 yards. That is the most passing yards of any of the big contracts. So he's got that going for him. 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. The 2 interceptions in the game were ugly interceptions. And the play he injured himself on was a dumb play and a stupid play and a play that, to me, everyone speaks about how great of a guy he is. And he, from all accounts, from what I've seen, yeah, he seems like an amazing dude, really well-spoken, smart kid. But part of me wonders if he plays with too much maybe emotion. That was an emotional choice. Like, he ran and put his head down. He wasn't thinking about sliding. He was playing poorly, and he made a choice to, like, I'm going to show my team I'm tough. I'm going to fight. And it's like that kind of emotional choice in that moment got himself injured. Because if you watch the play, it's not that he took a hit. He delivered a blow into DeMar Hamlin's chest, of all people.
Yeah, of all people. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It wasn't a hard hit.
Brutal.
And I think the thing that's really freaky, and the reason why it's such a talking point, he's the only guy we've seen over the last 3 years to get the type of concussions that he gets where he does the fencing.
Where he's fencing. Yeah.
And that's the stiffening of the arms and the hands. And the hands is really what's creepy about it, right? I mean, it's like, it's just very, very unsettling when you see it. Listen, if I was Tua, I wouldn't retire. I get why he's already come out. I'm not retiring. If I was the Dolphins, I would seriously tell him that, listen, we're bringing in someone. Like, the Dolphins need to be calling about Bryce Young. They need to be, like, starting the scouting on that type of stuff, being like,
there were rumors about Kenny Pickett. Obviously, that'd be a lesser talent than Bryce Young, but Kenny Pickett would be an upgrade over Skylar Thompson at this point.
Yeah, Skylar played okay. Kid out of Palmyra, Missouri. He played okay. We'll see what kind of run he gets right here. And again, it's a great system, right? It's a great system, and he's got all the weapons in the world. Can he keep it afloat? But at some point, I think the Dolphins have to say, listen, Tua, we love you, but we're going to bring someone in, someone who's maybe even just as good as you on paper or whatever. And you're the starter, right? Like, you're the starter going into next year. But we need to be more prepared, and we need to be just ready to go. And, you know, it's a spot that I think a lot of guys who insert names like a Gardner Minshew, Sam Darnold, a Bryce Young, there would be clamoring to be the quarterback in that system with those weapons with that head coach,
doubt.
right? And so, obviously, with the Tua contract, it's such a big contract, you'd have to find someone really on the cheap. So that's my whole spiel on it. I'll say, as far as the game goes, the Bills, man. I told you 2 weeks ago, I feel really good. As bad as I feel about certain predictions already, I feel really good about that Bills prediction. This team is playing inspired. This team is playing really loose. It feels like the expectations are gone for this team, right? It just feels like when you watch them, and maybe the Matt Milano injury, when it came versus when it came last year, it's not mentally devastating because they knew, like, hey, we're going to start.
They came in prepared with it.
Yeah. Versus, like, crap, this is a backbreaker late in the year, right? Or whatever it might be. And Josh Allen is just playing great football. And the Bills, man, they're a wagon. They own the Dolphins, and the Dolphins, they're in a really tricky spot right now. 1-1. I didn't look ahead to see their schedule, but 4 games without Tua. It's a smart thing to do, too. Don't you agree? Like, when that injury happens, like, we're going to put you on injured reserve. Like, 4 weeks.
Yeah.
We don't have to
Just
talk about you.
rip the
You're not on the
Band-Aid.
you're not on the sideline. You're away for 4 weeks.
Give them the time because you knew it was going to be 2 weeks anyways, most likely. I mean, that's you don't typically recover from that quickly. There's probably pressure from the NFL because of the optics of it. So yeah, put him on IR, let him go and heal up and kind of come back and refreshed and ready to go. The one benefit for Miami, and I agree with everything you said about Buffalo. Honestly, there's not too much more to add other than they're a more complete team than even I forecasted. And I have them winning the division, but they're a more complete team than I even thought. James Cook is really stepping up. He obviously had a massive game with 3 touchdowns in this one. The good thing for Miami is that they go on the road to Seattle. Obviously not a gimme, especially with a backup quarterback next week, but a winnable game. Then they play at home against the Titans. Very winnable.
Okay, winnable.
They play at the Patriots. That's also winnable, despite how the Patriots have been playing recently, right? And then they go on the road to the Colts and then at home against the Cardinals. Like the next 5 weeks, if they go 3-2 in that span, they've got themselves at a 4-3 record. Before
it's a
going
bummer
on the road to Buffalo again.
If they had Tua, I think they'd be favored in all of those games.
Right.
But without Tua, now it's like, can we be 500 over the next 4? And can Tua come back and play against the Cardinals and beat the Cardinals? It's workable. It's workable. And if they go 1-3, their season's probably over because this is the stretch to stack wins. Remember, and then that schedule gets tough.
Pretty tough down the stretch. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's good luck. Good luck.
Well, we'll see what happens.
You
agree,
Miami though. You wouldn't retire if you're Tua, right? Well, I wouldn't retire. I know people are saying, think of the long term. There's nothing is guaranteed. Nothing. It's not like there's any sort of guarantee. If God came down to Tua and said, "Listen, retire, and I guarantee you'll live to 90 and have no health problems," well, then fine. Shake hands and retire, right? But that's not a guarantee, right?
It's not a guarantee.
I know this is cruel and horrible to say, but you can be driving to the stadium tomorrow and get hit by a bus, knock on wood, but like life isn't guaranteed, right? And so,
but there are steps you can take to, like if you were, eating poorly and the doctor told you you're going down this road, like, do you want to make matters worse or do you want to protect yourself? Then you make the decision, or you should, to, better your health, to increase your odds. And so that's where that comes into play. It's really hard for me to put myself in that position because I just have no frame of reference for it. I think I would give it I think I would give it its due diligence in terms of like seriously, discuss this and like have some hard talks about it. But a lot of people pointed out too, these have been on prime time. These have been a quarterback. It's been there have been so many other players in this league that some players are going on their 5th, 6th, 7th and we don't talk about it. So
my younger brother Phil talks about
the optics of it.
Linemen. He's like, you get concussed almost every game.
Right.
It's not it's the severity and the visual with Tua. I'll put it this way. If I were him, finish out the year. Now, if like in week 10, it happens again, that's when you say to yourself, hey, I made my money. Thank you, Miami. The best thing for us to do is for me to give it. No one's going to judge him negatively. No one's going to say you're a pussy or whatever. I think we all understand. Colin Cowherd, I think it was Colin Cowherd who brought up a really interesting point, saying there needs to be an amnesty, that every NFL team should have an amnesty clause like this, to where if a player retires, once every 5 years, they get to, I think that's the way he laid it out. It's like, hey, we're going to pay that player the money, but it's not part of our cap, right? So like if Tua were to retire because of this, he gets every cent that we owe him.
Yeah,
but it shouldn't count against our cap. Now, if it then happens, then if Tyreek Hill does it the next year, they can't use it, right? You get like one every 5 years, and it like re-ups. But I think that's a really, again, if NFL cares about player safety, and like that could be another way to say, hey, let every NFL team determine, if you have a young player, like Andrew Luck would have been a great category for that too, right? Like, I'm done. I can't play anymore. But, it's like I earned this money to earn the contract. He shouldn't have to end up dead just to get his money.
Yeah. No, I do agree that there should be some sort of clause in there that
Yeah.
works around how it counts against the team. All right, we already discussed the Saints beating the Cowboys 44-19. Or did no, we didn't. We didn't discuss the Saints
No,
yet.
because it wasn't a loss for
that-
any of us. It was
yeah.
probably the
That
second
was in
worst
contention
loss.
though for the
Yeah.
best win. I thought actually for New Orleans, just how dominant they were. I
Oh.
mean, man, Derek Carr. Okay, it's so like I need to actually look up what the stat was because at one point in this game, it had
15
been
drives.
15 consecutive scoring drives.
Every
start the
drive
season.
that Derek Carr has played in has been a scoring drive. 15. 'cause
Yeah,
he
and
hasn't
they had
played in
6
like 2 of
straight
them.
touchdown drives in this one, so in this particular game. An incredible start for New Orleans and a pretty embarrassing showing from the Cowboys.
You know, Dan, the Cowboys, I mean, it's crazy. This is exactly why we try to temper expectations for Cowboys fans and all this stuff, because every year this game happens, right? This game happens to the Cowboys every year. And last year it happened twice. It happened in the season and then it happened in the playoffs. This year it's already happened in the season. I guarantee the Cowboys will bounce back. They'll have a couple good weeks. You'll forget about this. And then it'll rear its ugly head once again in the playoffs. Contract checkup. Dak Prescott, 4 years, $240 million.
I have a feeling there's going to be one for every match.
Well, there's 7 quarterbacks, $60 million.
No, I know.
1-1, 64% completion, 472 yards, 2 TDs, 2 interceptions. He's playing what you expect him to play. The problem is now it's a $60 million price tag. That's what's killer. I mean, that's really what's killer. Quickly say about the Saints, is it sustainable? I don't know. But I do think a lot of it has to do with Clint Kubiak, young offensive coordinator. No one has any film on him. And then everyone is healthy. And what did I say last week? The fact that Michael Thomas and like the stench of him is out of the building, you know, you're just seeing guys, Rashid Shaheed, I mean, Olave, Alvin Kamara looks like he's back to 2020 Alvin Kamara. Everyone Derek Carr looks 100% healthy and is just letting it loose. Fun to watch right now. Is it sustainable? I don't know. But them and the Bucs look like they're on a collision course for that division. And with the Cowboys, I have nothing to say. It was a Cowboys game. They do this. Like, don't panic if you're a Cowboys fan. You're still gonna get to like 10 wins, and you're still gonna make it to the wild card round. And then this game will happen again. Like that's the Cowboys. I don't know what else you want me to say.
Yeah. Yep. Nope. It's classic Cowboys for sure. But Dallas will come back next week and win, 55-10, and they'll still lose in the wild card round coming up later this year. We had the Bucs beating the Lions. Discussed that 20-16 was the final as the Bucs go to 2-0, Lions 1-1. Packers at home get a very close victory, but a victory nonetheless behind Malik Willis, who gets his first throwing touchdown in the NFL, his first touchdown period in the NFL. 16-10 victory. Was this more encouraging for the Packers or more discouraging for the Colts?
That's a hard one for me to parse,
actually.
Yeah, I apologize to all my Twitter followers because and Sunday at noon when the games kicked off, I put on the main screen Packers Colts because I was like, I'm ready. Anthony Richardson, let's go. He's a playmaker.
Yeah.
I know I was very bold with my Anthony Richardson love last week. I'm not walking it back, but I'll say this is, to me, again, it's funny because, like, if it's not your team, you can have sober thoughts with it, right? It's not my team. I don't care if the Colts win or lose. They're not my team. So it's easy for me to just be like, he's going to be fine. Like, growing pains. The dude played in only like 2 games last year, and he's only in his 2 games into this year. He's got all the raw ability. It's just he's got to play more football. Just let him keep playing football and gain experiences. Then it comes to your team and you're like, the world's ending, FML, I hate everyone. So I think I was disappointed that the Colts didn't force the ball to Jonathan Taylor more. I thought Jonathan Taylor had a really nice game, and then he just kind of
He did, yeah, because he had 103 yards, but just on 12 carries. Like, keep
yeah, and
running
it's
the
just
ball.
like it just seemed like they got away from the game plan, and they wanted Anthony Richardson to be a hero. It just seemed a little like that. And again, I think that's part of the offense is getting too cute. We all love Shane Steichen, right? We know he's a smart guy. It feels like the offenses are getting too cute in the NFL. It's just getting too analytical. It's getting too, this works on paper. Game is played in real life, and it's played with men, and it's played with physicality. And I wish offenses got back to that, or would get back to that. Harbaugh's bringing it back. We'll talk about that coming up in a bit. I might become a Chargers fan. I might just have to resign and become. I'm going to switch everything you see behind me and just be a Chargers fan. It's incredible football. I will say for the Packers though, I just hate it. Like, it's just so.
Like of course they win with Malik Willis at their starting quarterbacks. They weather that storm.
They should be 0-2. They've lost their quarterback. Like, they should not win this game, and yet they're the Packers. So of course they do, and that gives Jordan Love an extra week to sit and not have to play and get healthy, which is great for Packers fans. I'm so
and more
happy
bad
for
news
you.
for you because they go on the road to Tennessee next week. So
I know. I mean, at least Tennessee's in like a must win. It's a must win.
Yeah. But it's a revenge game for Malik Willis.
Oh, I know.
It's
just bullshit.
Just anything to add passion.
Contract checkup, Jordan Love.
Let's do it.
4 years, 220 million, 55 per year. 0-1 injured because he got injured at the very end of that game. 0-1, 50% completion percentage, 260 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. I give it an incomplete, obviously, with the injury as of right now, but I will say it's not great in the sense that he got injured and that, similar to Tua, when you pay the big contract, you want to see that season. It's a big, important season. Look what happened to last year's big contracts. Herbert, Hurts, Lamar. Lamar won an MVP. Herbert and Hurts, well, Herbert got his coach fired. He didn't get his coach fired. His coach got fired. It was an ugly year. And Hurts had what we would call a down year after going to the Super Bowl. So I would say right now, Jordan Love is in the down year category. Not really his fault yet, but when he comes back, he's going to have to really have a great rest of the year to be like, hey, this first year was a winning year under the new contract, in my opinion. Because when you get injured, it's not your fault, but it still weighs on the fact
it still counts.
That, your best ability is availability. It still counts towards your grade for the year.
Yep. Nope. It sure does. The Jets go and get a road victory, a much needed one that Aaron Rodgers and company just really eke out a victory behind another very, very poor performance from Will Levis. And Aaron Rodgers didn't look terribly convincing in this game. I think you would agree with that one too, but he didn't throw an interception and had 59% completion percentage or whatever it was, and got the win, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. But I think they're going to have to ride Breece Hall and their rookie Braylon Allen a little bit more this year than maybe they hoped coming in, thinking that they could get it all done behind the arm of Aaron Rodgers. Meanwhile, Will Levis, as you mentioned it just moments ago, starting to get into must-win territory already to begin the season before this really starts to fall off.
He's in must-play well territory. I don't know if the Titans have to win.
Actually, I agree.
I love
that's true.
The head coach of the Titans, Callahan. This young guy. So look, I love the whole the video went viral after that horrible
when he said
fumble.
It was a dumb play and
when he yelled like, "What the fuck are you thinking?"
Or
what the fuck are you doing? Like that. Like I love that. I love that. I love that. Again, it's like hard coaching. It's important to drill into a guy like Will Levis. He's shown you when shit is hitting the fan, he takes it and throws gasoline on the fire. Like he does not clean up the situation. 2 weeks in a row now, he's made the situation really, really worse when shit is hitting
Just
the
really
fan.
bad mistakes. Really bad mistakes. That's
I
terrible.
think Will Levis can play in this league. I do. I think Will Levis, I still feel like, let's talk about Will Levis post Thanksgiving. Let's like recheck in. Because I know it's not a great start with the mistakes, but I still see the intangibles of the tools. It's very Trevor Lawrence-y, where it's like, crap, there seems like something is just slightly off, but it's like Trevor's not making the devastating mistakes. Will has to clean those up because he's not producing enough touchdowns to like overwhelm. Like as Bears fans, we got so frustrated with Justin's back-breaking mistakes. You've already seen it. Some of the fumbles were just like, Justin, what are you doing? And the problem was it was never enough giant flash to overcome that. So Will Levis is in that territory. I will say, if you want to look at 2019 football and 2018 football and 2017 football, watch the Jets offense. No motion, stagnant, slow moving. I don't know if it's successful or it's long-term successful, but at least looks like offense that you recognize, right? That you get mad at player execution, not necessarily play calling. It's a huge difference. And I'll talk about that when we get to the Bears. There's a huge, huge difference as a fan, right? Am I mad at the play call or am I mad at the execution from the players on a certain play? Like it's a really, really important difference. And then you have teams like the Bears, who it's like, I can't even tell because it's both. Like, it's like, it's all bad. So with Aaron, I think a lot of it right now is poor execution. Like there's just still like, he is still really rusty and really trying to get back into the group. We saw it with Kirk Cousins last night in Atlanta. I think this Jets team, this was a really important win because it takes the pressure off a little bit. I think this Jets team is going to round into form. I really do. The defense is got a ton of talent. The running back group for the Jets is special. Offensive line so far has not been a terrible issue. Aaron's just got to get the legs going and get really warm back into this thing. Important win for the Jets. I don't know if it's a good win, but is an important win.
Yeah, a win's a win at the end of the day, and they, protect themselves from going 0-2, so they'll probably take that for sure.
Oh, yeah.
The Seahawks go on the road and get an overtime win against the New England Patriots. Very good win. Almost, also, for me, the takeaway was almost, man, the Patriots were so close to being 2-0, and I know it was the Seahawks. Not like we're, saying that they beat the 85 Bears or anything in this situation, but to be that close to 2-0 after what looked to be the worst roster in the NFL coming into the year, and then having Jacoby Brissett be the starter and new head coach, impressive win for the Seahawks to go 2-0. I don't want to take anything away from that, but my biggest takeaway was, man, I think this is the Patriots might be okay this year, and definitely not going to be in the bottom 5 at this point.
You know what they're reminding me of? They're reminding me of the Cardinals year 1 under Rich Gannon, right? Remember, who did they beat? The Cowboys or someone week 2? They had that upset win, right? It was like, oh, crap, they might actually be feisty this year. And then they ended up not winning a bunch of games, but they were feisty. They weren't as pathetic as we thought they were. And then they got Kyler back late in the year, and that helped, stabilize.
Or kind of like the Raiders of the last 6 years, really. Like,
yes, like
it's a team that kind of hangs around.
They're playing hard. They have the tight ends. You know what I mean? You have 2 tight ends who are capable and playing well. It's not like devoid completely. Ramondre Stevenson is still a nice piece. I think, though, I'm jealous. At this point, I'm really jealous of Atlanta and New England because their rookie quarterbacks are getting to sit and getting to just ease into this. And the other 3 rookies that are playing right now are getting the crap beat out of them. Jaden is at least putting up some numbers, but dude is taking hit after hit after hit. And so nice win for Seattle. It's funny. Seattle's 2-0. And you have the Niners at 1-1. You have the Rams at 0-2. You got to remember, they don't live too much in the micro as opposed to the macro. when you're filling out, you're like, oh, how does the season go? But win, loss, win, loss, win, win, loss, loss, loss. There was so many simulations where it's like, yeah, the Seahawks are 2-0. Seahawks are 2-0. That's fine. Like,
Yeah,
it's not
right.
like, and then what did they end up being?
True.
A 7-10. Like, so don't like we get so wrapped up in like this just happened. Yes, it's a marathon, and that's again me trying to set myself up as I talk about my team. And I know you're thinking of it with your team as well. We know that stretch is coming, right? Like, we talked about this a month ago. The Steelers have to stack wins in the early part of the season because that deathly stretch is coming at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So Seattle, kudos to them, right? We said if they want to make the playoffs, they've got to find ways to stack some wins before they play the in-division opponents that are really tough and they beat the crap out of each other in the West. Everyone owns someone in the West, right? Big win. Geno, again, Geno, Darnold, Baker are a great example right now of like, it's not over for Mac Jones, right? It's not over. It's not over for Bryce Young. It's not over. It's not over for all the rookies who are struggling right now. It's probably over for a guy like Mitch Trubisky. He's seen his chances and it just hasn't. It's not there, right? He's a quality backup, but it's not there. But
Zach Wilson still got a chance. Like,
it's not over for Zach Wilson. It's probably over for Trey Lance. Like, again, it's just feels like it just is not there at all. But it gives you hope if you're some of those guys. Like, it's not over. You could get yourself a chance, and it's a great reminder too. If you're a Jags fan, if you're a Commanders fan, if you're a Broncos fan, a Bears fan, like, take your time, and it might not be until year 4. And I know that sucks, but if you think you got it, if you think you have something, it might. These things develop. Now the difference is, Baker's build is a stockier, stronger build, and he's got an arm that can make all the throws. Darnold and Geno are big athletes, 6'3", strong, physical. Bryce Young's 5'10", right? Like, Zach Wilson, barely 6 feet, just 6 foot. Like, I think there's something to the bigger, stronger athlete. Geno, I don't think would have had this miraculous kind of resurrection of his career if he was 5'11", 6 foot. Like, I don't think that exists. I really don't. So that's, to me, the other thing to watch when I say all this. It gives you hope, but it also is a reminder, like, these guys are big. Sam Darnold played linebacker. I know that story's beaten to death, but he's a giant physical athlete that can handle being in the NFL for this long and handle the lumps that you take to learn. So kudos.
What do we make of the Commanders going 1-1, Giants going 0-2 as Washington, beats them on that, field goal 21-18, the final there?
I make that Brian Dable.
Sorry, that's the field goal. I don't think they won by a
field
goal.
Yeah, it was a field goal.
Or it was.
Well, on a last-minute field goal.
That's right.
My take is Brian Dable needed to have another
7
kicker.
Field goals.
He needed to have another kicker. It was a mistake, and he put him. And him and the GM, I don't know whose ultimate decision it is for like creating the 53. They had 52 men rostered, and they went into the game knowing your kicker was injured. And as soon as he kicked the ball off, was out, like couldn't kick anymore. And they missed. They couldn't kick extra points. They couldn't kick field goals. It cost them the game. The Giants played better than the Commanders. They lost the game because they didn't have a kicker who could kick the ball.
Yeah, poor management there for sure.
It's frustrating. It's got to be frustrating for all involved. I will say, if that's the ceiling for Daniel Jones, or at least like the above average play, the Giants could win a couple games this year. Like, they're not going to be pathetic. He just threw the ball to Malik Neighbors and said, hey, Malik Neighbors, you're a stud. I'm going to make you happy. And that's what you got to do. And kudos to him for that. The defensive line for the Giants is so good. They have such an elite pass rush and a front four. There's like pieces, right? There's just these pieces, but overall it feels very limited because of Daniel Jones. So limited. With Washington, on the other hand, like, huge to get the monkey off the back to get a win, right? Caleb gets a win in week 1. Jaden gets a win in week 2. Obviously, Bo Nix is still waiting for that win. It's a relief. Like, it's a popping of the blister. You got one, right? It cools the tide. A win heals all wounds in those ways. But let's be honest. Again, he took a ton of hits. There's some inaccuracies. It's and in the end, I feel for him right now because he needs another dynamic playmaker. They're just a dynamic playmaker away from helping him take another step. They need help on the offensive line. Their defense is terrible. Commanders' defense is just not good. And so he's got to be Superman. And I just hope it doesn't lead to an Anthony Richardson situation where it's like, damn, he's out for the year. And knock on all the wood. I'm knocking on wood now. I don't want that. But that's the internal gut vibes I'm getting with Washington right now. Like I'd be holding my breath as a Commanders fan.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that.
Yeah. The Chargers go on the road at Carolina. It's even worse than we could have imagined for the Panthers, who have now benched Bryce Young in favor of Andy Dalton. 26-3, the final, as the Chargers cruise to 2-0. Justin Herbert throws 2 touchdowns to last year's first-round pick, Quentin Johnston, who might be having a breakout season. They ran the ball well. They played defense well. Bryce Young looked completely lost, even when the offensive line was blocking well. It sucks all around for the guy who's, not even into, a good portion of his second season as a signal caller. I know that it's never easy for anyone to hear it. This might just be what's best for him. I hope it's not the end of the road for his chances in Carolina.
Yeah.
But it almost felt like a reset just needed to happen.
Dan, I'm with you. I wouldn't have done it this early. I think it's scary that it's
with
done
the new head coach and everything.
It's scary that it's done this early because the new head coach has the 5-year deal, and who made the decision, right? Albert Breer.
Yeah, but hey, so did Frank Reich and Matt Rule. They all had long deals. That's not much in Carolina.
David Tepper had to sign off on this. He's that kind of owner. Like I can't imagine David Tepper waking up and finding out this is going to happen to him. Him not having some sort of like, you can do this. Albert Breer said on Colin Cowherd today, and it's so interesting. And this is why one day I hope that our podcast or us can grow to the point where we can talk to an Albert Breer and guys who are so informed like this on a day-to-day, because he said, he's like, what he was hearing around the league is that it's not necessarily what the Panthers are seeing. It's what the Panthers are hearing about the teams that are scouting the Panthers. And it's the fact that they all know that Bryce Young has taken so many hits and he's under so much duress. He's not looking downfield. Like he's just, as soon as he steps, it's like
just running
2-step. It's 2-step drop. And it's like, am I going to get hit? Am I going to get hit? And the problem with that is he's so small. How can you can't blame him. He's been hit so much. They've been so bad that it's now in him. And so you hope this is the intervention, right? Bryce, we need, before you go back out there taking live bullets, we are going to condition you and work with you you just have to read and react, and you have got to keep your eyes downfield, and we've got to move the pocket. He's 5'10". Like he's tiny. We said it a year and a half ago during this whole process. There was a reason why you and I had him third on our list of draftable quarterbacks last year. It's just, I agree. I hope it's not the end of the road. I wouldn't have done it this early because it feels a little bit like a death sentence. But the hope is you can right the ship and you can show some winning football, and you also have to maybe prove to your owner, if you're Dave Canales, the team is growing. I'm building something here. Look, with Andy Dalton, we can score points. Maybe they're probably not going to win, but we can score. We can be competent. So, and then you can show Bryce in the offense, he's under the same duress as you. But look, he's keeping his eyes downfield. He made the throw to Thielen. Boom. Because Bryce Young is inaccurate now. His biggest bonus was that he's Drew Brees. He's so accurate. He's so inaccurate right now because his speed are scared. He's scared of getting hit. So that's the hope. Can I just quickly say again, I am so jealous of Chargers fans. I know there's only like 4 of them in the country. But you are the luckiest sons of bitches on the planet. Jim Harbaugh is late 90s football. It's so beautiful.
Coach. Yeah.
There were so many times I watched the highlights from that game or they cut to it in a red zone and I'm like, oh my God, I formation, heavy set. They brought in extra linemen and they're at the 50-yard line. I'm like, oh my God. It's beautiful. It's football. It's beautiful.
Yeah, there's something to be said for zigging when the rest of the league is zagging. You know,
it's not only that. It's just having an identity and saying, "Hey, this game isn't hard. Like, let's not make it harder than it has to be." As opposed to what we're seeing from all of the other offenses, where it's like guy in motion, jet sweep, throwback, quick bubble out, get to a spot. As opposed to just like, nope. My guys are Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt. These are big men, and we're going to pound it down your throat. And Justin Herbert now maybe have to miss some time. I'm not worried about the Chargers at all. I think the Chargers through 2 weeks look like a absolute playoff team in the AFC.
Yeah, no, they are firing on all cylinders right now, and they play the Steelers next week. So we'll see how that's battle
going to be a bloody matchup. I hope that game is 10-9, like a bloodbath of just physicality.
It's going to be there's going to be a lot of running the football in that game.
I can't wait. Sure. I can't wait. That's TV.
We mentioned the Browns. Exactly. We mentioned the Browns beating the Jacksonville Jaguars 18-13. Let's get to the Raiders pulling off an upset win against the Ravens. Baltimore now 0-2 on the season. They lose 26-23 as Gardner Minshew leads the rally, 3 fourth quarter scoring drives to get the victory. Look, Baltimore gave this one away. They had the game and they blew it, which to be fair, like this is I think they said 9 double-digit leads in John Harbaugh's tenure over the last, I think it was like 5 years. They've blown 9 fourth quarter double-digit leads. That's a pattern. That's something they got to get corrected.
Yeah, I watched the end of this game as they cut to it, and Red Zone is showing it, and it's like, oh, the Ravens are up 10 in the fourth, it's over. And then all of a sudden, Lamar wasn't great in the fourth, missed some throws. I thought it was questionable play calling. The hard thing with Derrick Henry, the addition of Derrick Henry is, and I said it before the season, this team is now really built for January football. And it's hard to do January football in September. And it's really hard to do January football when you have a two-time MVP who's just a playmaker. And every time you give it to Derrick Henry, 7 times out of 10, it's like a 2-yard gain. But on that 3 other times, it's a pop-off. And it's like the dude stiff-arms someone into the earth, and it's the greatest play in NFL history. And that's one of the issues that I'm sure drove Titans fans crazy with Derrick Henry too, is it's like, for Derrick Henry to be effective in your offense, he needs it 10 times in the first quarter. He needs it 8 times in the second quarter.
Yeah, you got to rev that engine.
So then in the fourth quarter, when you get it 10 times, it switches over to now 7 out of the 10 times, it's a pop run because the defense is so beat down from it, right? When you can play action off it. So they're working the kinks out, but defensively, that's the concern, right? Because the defense just didn't look like the Ravens defense. They have names. We had the Roquan Smith. You can name the names, but it didn't look like the Ravens defense. Credit to the Raiders. I said it before the season. I picked them to be third in that division, to be really feisty. This is a great example of it. I will say, I do have some concerns that Luke Getsy's offense looks good with Gardner Minshew, and that makes my brain really hurt, but I don't want to think about it. I'm just not going to think about it. I'm just going to say good for the Raiders. That was fun. The Raiders also have like Brock Bowers. It was Gardner Minshew realized in the fourth quarter. So, Devontae Adams and Brock Bowers. Like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, and then who made
Brock
the big
Bowers
play?
is already off to a great start.
Yeah. Who made the big play in the defense for the Raiders in the fourth quarter? Max Crosby.
Of course.
They are a team with studs. And if they find their young future quarterback, like this team, huge upset. If they don't reach and do like a Bo Nix move and you go get a guy with huge upside, look out.
Definitely. Real quick question for you. Last reigning MVP to go 0-2 to start a year.
I remember seeing it was like
They
in the
they
01
mentioned this on
season.
Good Morning Football.
So I saw it was like it's the first time since like 01, right?
Very close. 0-2.
So my
Kurt
guess is Rich.
Warner.
Oh, I was gonna say
Oh, I'm
Rich
sorry.
Gannon.
I'm
No,
sorry.
but I
My
didn't see
bad.
it. But my guess
Um,
was Rich Gannon, but that Kurt Warner. Okay.
Yeah. Kurt Warner and the Rams went 0-2 to start the 2002 season. But yeah, 22 years since that happened,
First
and Lamar
time
Jackson
0
now has done it.
First time 0-2
So,
for Lamar. I'm not.
yeah,
I'm not worried about the Ravens. The Ravens were not a candidate for worst loss. It was a top 5
agreed.
worst loss,
Agreed.
but it wasn't a glaring number one. I know since I think I heard the stat somewhere today. It was either part of my take or Colin Coward because that's all I listen to. Since the 17 game season started, which again smaller sample size, 0-2 teams, I think only like 2 0-2 teams have made the playoffs. So for some reason, you'd think it'd be easier
harder
to start 0-2 and then make the playoffs with an extra game. But so far in the small sample size, it's harder. Take that what you will.
Yeah. Maybe a little less urgency with that one extra game there. Could be. Cardinals blow the lid off the LA Rams 41-0. Rams 0-2. They're going to be without Cooper Kupp now for seemingly a little while, an extended period of time, according to Sean McVay. So they are down their top 2 wide receivers now, already facing adversity to begin the year, and they're doing so behind an 0-2 start. Meanwhile, Kyler and company look really good. Marvin Harrison Jr. finally breaking through after a very quiet week 1 for him. But yeah, Cardinals are they can score points. There's no question about it. I am concerned about the Rams now, 0-2, and now without Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua for at least a few weeks.
The Rams, can they stay afloat? Right? Can the Rams be 500 around Thanksgiving? That's now the goal. If I was a Rams fan, I'd be like, can we be 6-5 around Thanksgiving? Right, late November. Can we find a way to have a chance late in the season when our guys come back? Because they're not only missing the 2 wide receivers, they're also missing 2 of their starting offensive linemen. Like, it is an infirmary of injuries on the offense for the Rams. If I were them, if I was Sean McVay, I would pull out my Todd Gurley plays from when I first took over the Rams. Remember, Todd Gurley had 2 of the best seasons at NFL running back since, the year 2000. And I would just be like, how much of this can I install quickly? And how much of this can I just define our offense again by and go with that? And then have Matt Stafford try to protect him. Because the last thing you want now is Stafford gets injured because now the season's over. So can I protect Matt Stafford with a really strong run game and some unique play calling to keep him upright? And as for the Cardinals, I mean, this team is going to be a roller coaster. And I really think they're the type of team that the week they do the blowout, like I'm hard betting against the Cardinals this week. Like I don't
see them sustaining.
I don't see it as this is who the Cardinals are. I think this is like a peak of like they can do that. But I also think, remember, the Rams were in an overtime dogfight against the Lions in week 1, and they lost in heartbreaking fashion. They were injured. And, I mean, it was one of those, it was like, I think a lot more had to do with the Rams being really underprepared physically for this game versus the Cardinals are elite. So I'm going against the Cardinals next week. Not to say I don't like the Cardinals, not to say it wasn't an impressive win to do that to a divisional rival, but let's see how week 3, 4, 5, and 6 go. They're feisty. They are feisty and they're fun.
Yeah.
And Marvin Harrison Jr. is a stud. And
he's
Kyler should just keep chucking it up to him.
Yeah. Hey, Kyler keeps up this pace, he'll be in the MVP conversation. No question.
Oh yeah. Him, Baker, and Derek Carr all to start the year right
now. Hey, maybe Sam Darnold thrown in there too.
Oh, yeah.
Denver Broncos drop one at home in Mile High. Bo Nix, another, continuing his rough start to his NFL career. But Steelers and Justin Fields get the job done. 2-0 now, baby. Behind Justin
So-
Fields. 13-6. Such a Steelers
Can
win.
you-
Such a Steelers box score.
Can you explain the
this
Mike
one.
Tomlin quote today? He was saying that they're going to stick with Justin Fields, and then apparently they gave the game ball to Russ.
So apparently what it was is that Fields told somebody that they gave Russ the petty ball. He called it the quote unquote petty ball because, like, hey, they're, let them be petty type of thing,
gosh, no.
because, we got this win for you and like they're the petty ones or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't really know what the meaning was behind it because Tomlin wouldn't address when he was asked about that. Instead, he gave that ridiculous line, which is
love
just
him.
instantly another Mike Tomlin classic of, I can't give you all the ingredients to the hot dog. You might not like it. All right. Sounds great,
Good.
man.
I love it.
But
I love it.
all around, I mean, I'm not going to ever be upset with a 2-0 start. I will say, the offense started to look a little bit better in this game. Biggest problem for the Steelers right now is, man, they've had some incredible plays this year. Already about
Called
6 that
back.
I can identify, all called back. Like 6 game-changing.
Oh,
massive
Justin
plays.
Fields' numbers would look way different, way better.
Way
if
different.
Yeah.
And Fields made, truthfully, one of the best throws I've seen in a very long time, rolling out and hitting
Darn.
George Pickens on a dime for a 51-yarder down the field. And of course, it gets called back from holding. But Pickens' stat line would have been 100+ yards with a touchdown as well. He made 2 great plays on those.
Yeah.
Both of them get called back. So look, I mean, they got to get that stuff cleaned up because these are game-breaking plays. They're lucky that they're able to, win on the backs of their defense and overcome some of these. But these types of penalties taking away these game-breaking plays later on in the year, you're going to get bit
Oh, yeah.
more often than you're going to, get a win despite them. So that's the biggest concern for me. But, I'm encouraged by their running game. Overall, their offensive line play has been pretty good. Defense has been lights out. So we'll see. This will be a very accurate test this week against the Chargers to see how good their run game is and how good their defensive line is against a physical group like Los Angeles is. But they're 2-0, and I also think being 2-0, they can't go to Russ next week. I don't think they will.
They already said they're not, right?
Yeah. I mean, they've all but said that. Tomlin won't commit to it. He'll say we'll get there when Russ, logs practice, then we'll discuss that. I just don't think they're going to do that. Now, if they're 3-0 after this week too, though, and Russ is healthy and practices fully, I think I might still be surprised if Russ starts at that point because you're 3-0 behind Justin. You just beat the Chargers.
You worry about the locker room. You could lose the
how
locker
do
room.
you? Yeah. So at that point, and it's a bummer for Russ because he had the job in his hands and he, he got injured and nothing you can control about that, but it is what it is. Yeah. All around, I'm encouraged, would like to see more points, but penalties have kind of taken that away at this point.
Yeah, you talked about the Steelers, and I have nothing else to add. I'm happy for Justin. I'm thrilled for him. I watched the highlights, and I just smile. And I've said all along, I think he's a better player than Russ right now. I think he's better for the Steelers' aura, for their psyche, for their locker room with those young guys. I think he's better for Mike Tomlin. And I think that for Steelers type of football, he's perfect, right? Like, try not to make a mistake and then have a game-breaking play or two, and then we can win the game with defense and running the football. I will say this about the Broncos. Again, I mean, not enough. They have no run game. They have nothing. Bo Nix down the field throws is I think the worst in the league right now. They're not even throwing them because it's that bad.
Yeah.
Bo Nix, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions through 2 games. And the one in the red zone, the driver, he got them down to the red zone with the trick play, right? Like the double reverse and then the big throw. It's like, oh, okay. It took a trick play to get him to complete a down the field pass. Immediately after following that big positive play, a horrible pick in the back of the end zone.
Yeah, terrible. That was a game crushing play.
He's learning trial by fire. The one thing he's got going for him right now is they are protecting him certainly better than Jane Daniels and Caleb Williams are being protected. So he's got that going for him. But again, it still feels like what I've seen through 2 games, the peak for Bo Nix is Dak Prescott. And again, I just go back to the fact that how good are you going to have to build up that roster and that team and that coaching staff to have Dak Prescott win that division over the next 5 years? I just don't see it. I don't see it. So he may be fine and may end up being a solid quarterback, but I still just think the ceiling is 3rd place in the AFC West as of right now. They have this Broncos team is, I'm feeling very vindicated. I had them being in 4th in that division. I'm feeling very, very vindicated. I think that they'll find some wins, but it's just not there's devoid of a lot of talent. I'm not blaming Sean Payton, even though I don't like Sean Payton. They're devoid of a lot of talent. They're in the middle of a rebuild for sure. I think that's evident.
Heavy asks a pretty hilarious question in the chat. Who starts more games this year, Bryce Young or Russell Wilson?
Oh,
interesting question, right?
Well, Bryce has already started 2.
One's been benched. The other hasn't been healthy yet.
Andy Dalton's going to get injured, so Bryce is going to come back.
Okay,
I'm going to say Bryce.
I think I would probably say Bryce.
Bryce is up 2-0.
Started too. Yeah, exactly.
He's up 2-0. I don't think Russ is going to. Remember, the Steelers' schedule doesn't get hard until the end of the year, and if Justin can hold on to the job until things get bad, it would take a dramatic two-game horrible skid probably for him to lose it. And even then, there's probably only 6-7 games left in the year. So I'm going to go with Bryce, but that would be a really fun thing to get some odds on.
Yeah, an interesting question, no doubt. Chiefs improved to 2-0. The Bengals fall to 0-2, 26-25 victory for the Chiefs. So they barely edged the win here after Harrison Butker, gets the walk-off field goal for the victory. Brutal loss for the Bengals, who really, really needed a win like this, especially since Joe Burrow could have been the only quarterback to beat Patrick Mahomes 4 times in his career. But nonetheless, Cincy now 0-2, reeling a little bit, and the Chiefs finding a way to win.
The Chiefs are going to be really fun to watch over the next 4 or 5 weeks because they don't have Isaiah
Pacheco now out for probably 2 months.
I think they're a better team overall. Like they're a better built to win the Super Bowl team with Isaiah Pacheco, and he'll be back after Thanksgiving, and they'll be fine for the stretch run, right? But Patrick Mahomes had his statistically worst game of a career where he started and finished the game without an injury. And we talked about passing yards, everything being down. Travis Kelce's been a non-factor through 2 games. I have a sneaky feeling you're going to get the Chiefs going like on an offensive tear for the next couple weeks.
I can see that absolutely,
and I kind of welcome that because it's fun. Like that's when the Chiefs are fun. The Chiefs aren't fun when they're beating you with your defense. Mahomes makes clutch plays and they win in a close game because then it's nauseating because you're like, God, that was our chance. We're going to beat them. And so the Chiefs are fun when it's like, dude, they just blew us out 42-7. It's like, oh my God, Mahomes is that dude. So I have a feeling you're going to see some of that over the next couple of weeks. I'll say about this game specifically, the Bengals are built to beat the Chiefs. They are a team that is not afraid of the Chiefs. Now, are the Bengals built to get to that point to where they can beat the Chiefs? I don't know. We got to get T. Higgins. We got to get Jamar Chase on the same game. You know what I mean? Like all that's got to happen. But Trey Hendricks he dominated that game. Like they have a rookie tackle for the Chiefs. They had to bench him during the game and bring in the backup, the one who caught the touchdown pass.
Yeah.
So like that's a problem for Kansas City. That's a huge problem that you have a rookie tackle who you believe in. You gave him the starting job to start the year. And by midway through week 2, you had to bench him against Trey Hendricks is good, but he's not top 5 pass rusher. But he's top 10, but he's not Myles Garrett. He's not Watt. He's not Crosby. He's not either of the Bosas. Yeah. So he's just below that elite level. And he owned that. He owned that offensive line. So the offensive line is a key to look out for. That's a weakness for the Chiefs. That's definitely a weakness. I think this was a great loss for the Bengals. I expect them to spank the Commanders on Monday Night Football. I expect them to completely ratchet it up. They're ready to go. They're ready to take off.
They need to.
An angry Burrow, 0-2, a loss like that. It was a pass interference. You got to call it. It was bad play by a rookie corner. And the Chiefs, kudos to them. They put themselves in positions to make plays like that. And they find ways to win games. And that's what drives you crazy with the Chiefs. If the Chiefs are winning 50-0, it doesn't drive you crazy. It drives you crazy when they win in the close game. And you're like, son of a biscuit. We had
getting it. Yeah. How do you feel about your Bears, man? 1-1.
Okay.
Texans win. They go to 2-0, 19-13. Caleb Williams, no touchdowns, 2 picks. How are we feeling? A lot of talk about Chicago.
Okay, so I promised at the beginning I'm going to two thoughts on this, right? I'm going to start as the glass half empty guy. It's easier to get angry, right? The glass half empty is this offensive line is absolutely horrendous. And that is just a fact. Your star rookie tackle from last year seems to have regressed. You moved Tevin Jenkins, who was thriving at right guard, to left guard. And because of Nate Davis, who shouldn't even be playing, but he's playing now because of the guy you brought in, Ryan Bates, is injured. And so he's inept. And then Braxton Jones, who was a 6-rounder, who last year had a really solid year. And we thought, oh, okay, you don't have to draft Fashanu in the first round. You can take Rome Odunze because Braxton Jones' stock is up. And Darnell Wright stock is up. They've had a terrible start to the year. Now, if you go deep into Bears Twitter, I can keep going down the ride that there's a certain coach who was an offensive line coach for the last couple of years, who's the only offensive coach that has survived. He's now the run game coordinator and offensive line coach. And look how bad it's gotten. And look at like guys like Cody Whitehair, who we thought was done in the league. He's actually succeeding still in the league. Patrick, who we thought was done in the league with the Bears offensive line, is now succeeding down in New Orleans. So there's a lot of they're going to deep state on that. I don't want to go that route yet, but I'm just going to point out that's something Bears Twitter's talking about. So if you're watching, I acknowledge that. I'm going to keep my eyes on that. Pessimistically also, I'm terrified because what did we just talk about with Bryce Young? He got hit so many times. He's now happy feet and he's looking at the lineman coming at him and not looking downfield. Caleb Williams is barely 6'1".
He's stocky, though.
He's stocky, and I'm not, but he's already, 7 sacks. And what was so great about the start of this game, 5 for 5, 50-something yards on script. It was great start to the game, right? It was like, boom, ball out, accurate, boom, let's go. Then it gets off script. And I think Shane Waldron doesn't know what he wants to do with personnel. I think that offensively, this is obviously Keenan Allen injured. Like that's already, like we talked about it, like, can he stay healthy? You need him in the lineup. So that's all negative, right? Like I'm panicking about that. That's the negative side, right? I could scream and call into ESPN 1000 and just bitch and moan about offensive line play.
Yeah. Just don't call him Bernstein.
Yeah. Oh, well, he's 670 to score.
670 to score.
But I will say on the flip side, so who I am, and you know this, I'm a glass half full guy, right? I always am looking at the positive, especially with my team. The next 4 games, so winnable, like so winnable. And this is the time of the year where we said, like, the schedule really opens up for the Bears. That's great. I will also say,
and we penciled in a loss here. Anyway.
Yes, and again, 1-1. Like, and you legitimately, this defense held the Texans to 19 points in Houston when it was nothing but 3 and outs and turnovers. Like, like, oh my God, like this defense could ball. And that just goes to show you, Eberflus can coach his side of the ball, but this whole hands-off approach on the offensive side seems to be really negative, really, really negative. I will also say, He's a rookie. Like, he's a rookie. None of the rookies are playing well. None of them are throwing a touchdown pass, the 3 rookies so far. Offensively, it seems disjointed. I will say this. I'm concerned in the sense that I don't know who to be mad at yet, right? Like,
Yeah.
I've watched so many breakdowns, Baldy breakdowns, all these breakdowns on Twitter. And there are times where it's like everything went right except for this one tiny thing. And then the next video I scroll and it's like, what is this play call? The play call had no chance. It's not the player's fault. It's the play call's fault. The next thing is it's a great play call, but this player made a mistake. So they're compounding. The reason it's so bad right now is that it's disjointed. They haven't practiced enough together. The offensive line is truly a problem. I would sit Nate Davis. I don't care. Start anyone else. The rookie Yale offensive lineman they drafted, who's from the Chicagoland area, he's injured. So we knew he'd be injured. So they hope to get him back. I think he's on I think he was just on the IR to start the season. So I'm not exactly sure when they could start, subbing him in. If it's the 4 game or the 8 game. So that sucks because Nate Davis should not be playing. He should not be playing. Like he never practiced. Yeah. He's out of shape. He's not good. I don't care how much you paid him. He should not be playing. So I would move Tevin Jenkins back to the right side, and I would just have a sick right side of the line with Jenkins and Wright. The center's playing okay. And then I would he's not your long-term solution, which is a whole nother discussion that we still didn't find our long-term solution, and it's a bummer. And then I would just throw in anyone at the left guard, sit Nate Davis, and he's your emergency offensive lineman. And then you got to coach up Braxton Jones and help him out. I'd also think that the Bears absolutely need to keep it simple. The run plays that are successful so far early in the season are downhill, under center run plays. Just help the kid out. Help the kid out. Help the kid out. I'm not panicking. I want you to know, truly, I'm not panicking.
No, I'm not either. I think that's
this week. This week's an important week. The Colts are beat up. They're not great. They're just as down offensively as you. It's in Indy. It's a short trip. Lots of Bears fans will be there. It's not a must win, but it's a chance to play better. Like, come on out. Let's score some points. Let's open things up. Hopefully Keenan Allen will play. And, honestly, Dan, if you were to truth serum me, if you peel back all the layers, like I said, my biggest concern right now is the hits. Justin Fields got sacked 9 times his first start against Cleveland. And I feel like I'm watching the same thing over and over and over and over again. And I'm like, you're just going to kill this kid's confidence because you just can't protect him. And I just run the football under the center, traditional, simple reads. They threw that slant to DJ Moore in the first quarter, and they never went back to it. It's like, just throw the slant to DJ Moore. Just throw the slant, especially because they were blitzing all night because you couldn't pick up the blitz. Just throw the slant. And so is that Shane Waldron? Is that the players? Were they calling the slants, but they just couldn't get to it because the players were bad? I don't know yet. I need more film to figure out if I'm fire Shane Waldron or if I'm fire the offensive line or whatever it might be. I will just say Eberflus those challenges were trash. I mean, just trash.
Yeah, he's getting dogged for that on the internet right now.
Yeah, he should be. And the Texans were really good. And Nico Collins is a stud. And Tank Dell is a weapon. And Diggs is just like a guy in their offense because they have so many weapons. They're going to be legitimately, to me right now, it's them in Buffalo for the showdown with Kansas City. Like they're in the final 3 right now after 2 weeks in the AFC, and the Bears defense held them in their building. So we had a chance to win that game. We had a chance to win that game with how bad we played. That drives me crazy, but it also, I'm going to take the positive from that is if we make the right adjustments on offense, if we bench Nate Davis, you did not play Velus Jones. Congratulations. Have the nuts now to not play Nate Davis.
Yeah. Exactly. There you go. All right. Well, hopefully it's a quick turnaround. Let's round out with the Dirty Birds getting the 22-21 victory over the Eagles. Another heroic finish right at the end.
Good.
Kirk Cousins capping the winning drive with a touchdown pass to Drake London. And the Falcons rally in this one to get the win over the lowly Eagles who did not look very good in this game, despite Saquon Barkley having another really good game. A.J. Brown going to miss some time, he announced as well. So they're going to be without their star receiver for a little while here. Good rebound for Atlanta. Kirk Cousins especially played much, much better than he did last week and started to inspire a little bit of confidence that this offense actually can pull it together. But yeah, I think this did ultimately say a little bit more about the Eagles than it did the Falcons in terms of don't know if the Eagles are going to be that team that can return to the form they were a few years ago when they went to the Super Bowl. They might just be a team that gets to 10 wins, 11 wins at best, and they're completely weathered by the time they get to the postseason. That just kind of seems what this group is for right now.
Yeah, I watched every snap of this game, and I at the end of the game, I thought to myself for the Eagles, if I was an Eagles fan, positive, the run game and Jalen Hurts being dynamic in the run game with Saquon, it's good. Great. And your offensive line is a top 5 offensive line in football. Defensively, I felt for them in the sense that I've had Vic Fangio as a defensive coordinator. He loves to bend, not break. And then the last drive of the game, he bent and he broke. They're not getting enough. Their defensive tackles are great, but they're not getting any actual pressure on the quarterback. Now, Atlanta, I also think it's a top 5 offensive line in football, and they ran the dick out of the ball. They looked really, really good. Bijan looked,
bringing it back.
Bijan looked great. And I'll also say this. I don't think Kirk played that great. I think Kirk, though, had a fantastic drive at the end, and he was like, and that he needed that to like get him into rhythm, get that win. And I think now it wouldn't shock me. This is the type of win for Atlanta that could lead to 2 wins in a row, like they'll win next week. And this is like kind of how like the Rams lost last week led to a loss this week. I think this is also the type of loss for Philly that could lead to a loss next week, because it just was emotionally gutting how it ended. If Saquon catches the ball, the game is over. And if they just would have ran it with Saquon or Jalen Hurts, the game is over. But they threw it and he didn't catch the ball. And then their defense gave up a gigantic drive. And I'll say this, Jalen Hurts, if you throw that ball out of bounds, you still have plenty of time, 2 timeouts, and you could still get the field goal range. Yeah. So that would drive me a little bit crazy if I was an Eagles fan as well. I'm not sure how to feel on either team yet. They both feel like contenders in the NFC, but neither of them, I would be shocked right now today if you told me the Eagles or the Falcons were the NFC representative in the Super Bowl. I'd be pretty shocked.
Yeah. Same here. All right, well, that was a wild jam-packed week.
We need to get to these bye weeks where there's less games.
I know. Seriously. Yeah, definitely do. But there's a lot to talk about this week for sure. But there are a lot of good games on the horizon for week 3. We'll be back as always with more. And throughout the season, if we're able to sprinkle in some, bonus episodes throughout the week, we'll definitely be bringing that to you. But yeah, here every Tuesday night for a full week recap as we continue through the NFL season. We appreciate you all being here. Part of the For Fantasy's Sake Podcast Network, For Frequency's Sake Podcast Network. I always get it screwed up because the show is For Fantasy's Sake.
I know.
Podcast Network is For Frequency's
We're the
Sake.
Football
We'll get
Lounge.
it together one of these days. Yeah. We are the Football Lounge with Mark and Dan. You can check us out at FB Lounge Pod. Please subscribe, like, all of that good stuff. We appreciate you being here. And we'll see you back here next week for our Week 3 NFL recap.